call the I'll call the meeting to order at 5:33 p.m. on August 9th, 2021. Councilman Deutsch, would you like to lead us in a flag salute? Sure, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Arth. Councilmember Arth. Councilmember Lucchese.
Present.
Councilmember Keisler.
Here.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Here.
And Mayor Bryan.
Present. All right. Today we have a closed session before we move on with our regular scheduled meeting. I'd like to open public comment on our closed session item. So our closed session item is employee evaluation, city manager, per government code 549570. So if anyone would like to make a comment on city manager employee evaluation, please come up to the podium and you'll please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Or if you're on Zoom, hit the raise your hand button.
Michael Bush, 6040 Butterfly Avenue. I just wanted to say that very quickly, the city manager, I think, has done a really good job. In fact, a really, really good job. And he deserves credit. He does care about the people a lot of Dunsmuir, and he does care about Dunsmuir a lot. It's very obvious when we talk with him and what he does. So I just think he's done a really good job. That's all.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bush. Is there any other public comments regarding our closed session item? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I will now close the public comment, and I'd ask all members of the public to leave for a little while. We'll resume our regular scheduled meeting at 6 p.m.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. I'll now call the regular meeting. Okay.
One more person joining. Okay, it looks like everybody's joined.
All right, thank you, everyone. Council is just back from closed session where we had one item, employee evaluation, city manager. There was an action taken. There was a motion unanimously approved to award Todd an excellent review. The status for his employment review for the past year was excellent. We're very appreciative of his work here in Dunsmuir. He's really helping us plant some deep roots and progress and moving the town forward. So let's move forward to our general public comment for this evening. Item 8. If anyone would wish to make a general public comment on an item not on the agenda, so anything general to the city or anything that is on the consent agenda. In the consent agenda here we have the check registry from July 31st to August 13th, MOE certifying maintenance of effort for public safety, and a resolution approving an application for funding and execution of a grant agreement for the community development block grant, and a resolution opposing the siting of the approach road for the Blackberry timber harvest plant. So is anything on the consent agenda or anything generally? Make a comment now. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, I could not find item D on the consent agenda. The resolution.
It's there in the packet, or?
So when you sent an email with it.
Yeah, so Peter, there was a supplement with that resolution.
Do I get a copy?
I can get you a copy.
It was in my basket. You could have my copy here of the latest. When you gave me today, was that the latest?
Maybe, but let me give him mine just in case.
But we still do have a general public comment.
We still do, so
Well, no, it
notwithstanding,
was the harvest plan and whether it's on the agenda or not.
It is. It's on the agenda.
it's on the consent agenda as things stand now, but let's open it up to general public comment. So please come to the podium or hit the raise your hand button, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the public record.
Hi, Jim Striegel, 2601 North Old Stage Road, Mount Shasta. Just came down to follow up on last week's presentation regarding the Patty Hill Memorial Christmas tree. My heart was warmed by your guys' reception to it. We had it posted on Facebook, dozens and dozens of comments and hearts and thumbs up, and there's great community support for this project. I was a little nervous though at the very end when you guys said, okay, we will have to get a urban forester and we'll do it as soon as possible. I know how slowly the wheels of local government grind. And when I hear that as soon as possible, I go, oh no, it's kind of a vague term. 2 weeks have gone by. I've sent a few emails out to try and find out the status of the situation. I haven't heard back yet. I know you guys can't respond directly to me. Maybe Peter or some other council people can find out. Has an urban forester been contacted yet? If not, may I suggest maybe Robert Menzies on Old Stage Road. He has helped the city of Weed with their tree planting in the city. And he does consultations for urban foresting and projects like this. But if there's somebody that you know that you've contacted who can make it soon, as soon as possible or whatever, that would be great. So I would recommend Robert. I've worked with him before. And also, have you had a chance to contact the nursery yet to talk to them about hanging onto the tree or tell them where the city stands with this project? I really would like to be there when the forester shows up because I've got some ideas for that planter to help the tree and make it so that it won't buckle the sidewalks. In the middle of that planter, there's an old well that Brian Wilson showed me, a pipe that goes down. We'd like to fill that with dirt, have the tree's main taproot go down, it'll self-water itself because it'll have its own private well. So that's just another thing. We've got 3 cubic yards of soil ready to go in the planter from Mount Shasta, and the tree's ready to go, and I'm ready to do a lot of hard work, mulching and finishing landscaping, and it's going to be beautiful when it's done. And if we wait too long, it's going to be Christmas already. I know Dave doesn't want to go out and cut another tree down, so in the middle of a blizzard. So anyway, if you can kick it around, let me know if a forester's been contacted, or if you have one in mind, or if there's somebody I can contact. I'll do lots more work on this if I need to. Thank you for your enthusiastic support for this project. Patty would have loved it. She was such an angel, and she has more fans and friends in this town than I ever realized when she was alive, just from seeing Facebook posts and stuff. So thank you for your reception, and any feedback, Peter, you want, or anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys.
Hey guys, am I allowed to make a comment really quickly on this?
I was gonna wait till we got to staff comments.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, if anyone else would like to come, make a general public comment?
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, just
Jimmy,
really.
why don't you stick around and hear what he has to say?
We're gonna update when this.
Todd. Okay, great.
It's Todd, yeah.
All right.
Protocol, you know what I mean? Protocol.
All right, seeing no further public comment, I'll close general public comment for this evening. Let's move forward into council and staff comments. Why don't we get started with city manager?
Hey, well, getting to the issue of the tree, we have an arborist we're meeting with on site on Wednesday morning. We should be able to make a decision based on what the arborist says, and in terms of how that tree would do related to urban forestry, which is what happens in an urban environment with a root ball constrained, and the pollution that's going to be coming off of brake pads and that kind of thing. So we'll get a read on how hardy that tree is, and whether that's a good choice for that location, and we'll come bring it back 70% like most. Our plan to bring it back to the next city council meeting with a decision.
So, yeah, we're meeting next week.
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday, you have a time?
We don't yet, Alan, I think we were settling on a time, but.
Shoot me an email or a phone call.
Yeah.
My phone number too. Thanks again, you guys. You got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
One more comment or discussion at some point here, maybe offline, is Parks Department is looking to apply for a Prop 68 grant. They're looking to renew their lease with the city, and they have right now, the Parks has basically an independent contractor agreement, and their maintenance tasks are very, very limited. So I'm concerned that maybe we need to look at how much maintenance is taken on and how do we make sure that we've got enough funding for Mike, or whether the city takes it on their own, because frankly, any city I've been in, Parks takes care of the maintenance of the parks, and they've got limited funding, so it's a different situation. But we need to take a look at a serious hard look and how we take care of our natural assets.
Okay, thank you so much. There any other comments, Todd?
Well, I spoke to the UP on a number of issues. One obviously pertaining to Mossbury Falls, still under review by structural engineering. That's the last go round of the plans. And our hope is that anytime now we get the approval on the actual design trail, and then we can start moving into negotiations on the trail itself.
Cool.
Excellent.
Oh, and one more thing to add. Well, communities around us have run out of water, flat out. Hornbrook, Lakehead, not in our sphere of influence, but Crescent City. We've got serious problems this year, obviously with fire and with water. Lakehead and some other communities are looking at us to purchase water from us. Our current contract was at 1 cent a gallon. That's changed now on my part to be consistent with Reading at 5 cents a gallon. But I encouraged, and I went and made a visit to the springs, and we need to start talking about some water rights issues. But we have 2 springs that are untapped up there. We don't really have much of a drop over years. The same time, same part of the year in our our water tunnels, which is very surprising to me. But we also have potentially 2 other wells that we can bring online. I've instructed our folks and Paul Bruder to be looking at the water rights issue and how quickly we can bring those springs on, so we're not scrambling at the last minute, because we're going to be facing more of these drought conditions, and we want to make sure that into the future we've got more water coming into the city.
All right, thank you. Sergeant Kubowitz?
Just make sure to talk into the mic. Okay.
There's one there too.
Okay, these are the July 2021 stats for Dunsmuir. So we did 434 hours of patrol time. Out of those, we did 189 either self-initiated or total calls for service. Out of those, we took 15 cases. We made 17 traffic stops, issued 13 citations, made 4 arrests. Out of those 4 arrests, there were 4 felony arrests and 4 misdemeanor arrests. So some of them were both misdemeanor and felony in one incident. They range from probation violations to stolen vehicles, and most recently the Dunsmuir super burglary. Out of those calls for service, 7 were burglaries, 3 were thefts, 1 auto theft, 2 assault and batteries, 2 domestic disturbances, 1 vandalism, 9 school checks, and 15 disturbing the peace calls. So And then our dispatch supervisor did our final tally for the year, and we completed 6,014 hours, and we're contracted for 5,280 hours. So the percentage is 114%. So we were 14% over our contract. So,
You know, we love you.
oh yeah. No, I know. We've talked about this before. Sometimes I know in the past, because I've been here for 14 years, sometimes we don't meet the contract and sometimes we do. And I think it's a give and take sometimes. So this time we gave to you guys and maybe repay it for the times that we didn't complete our contract for the Dunsmuir.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Woods. Say summer's going along fairly smoothly. Are there any?
No, we got 3 big fires going. We got the McCash fire, and that's down the Somes Bar area. So we've done evacuations for the Dillon Creek campground all the way to Somes Bar, up Salmon River Road, did like Idlewild and, or not Idlewild, Norheimer, and up that area. We have the Antelope fire. Now we've done evacuations for the Mount Shasta Forest. So it's, last time I looked at a map, it was about a mile from Trout Creek and Bowman Creek Road. So there's a threat of it coming in that way. It's also coming in on the other side of the mountain towards Deer Mountain Lodge. And then we have the river complex, and that's still in that community of, Cecilville, the Caribou Lake area, Coffee Creek. And it's weird because you got to drive all the way down Highway 3 and drive 20 miles into Trinity County just to get to like 12 houses that are strategically placed in Siskiyou. So that makes it difficult for us. So staffing is a real issue with 3 fires in our county and having to deal with evacuations and warnings and getting out there and dealing with all that. But as far as
had any luck with new hires?
yeah, we've one's supposed to be riding with me in next week for another 3 weeks for FTO, and so hopefully he'll be off. We hired another guy. He just started FTO, so but the problem is we're trying to keep up with attrition, so we're losing guys and we're trying to gain guys. So it's kind of like a zero right now. We're trying to hire more than we can. I think we're last I was told we can hire up to 6, which would help out huge for the area, but we're still plugging away.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Sergeant Cooper?
I had one quick one.
Councilman Art first.
Well, I just, having read the Wednesday paper and the resolution of the County Board of Supervisors regarding employees, vaccination, masking, does the sheriff's office have a different policy as far as vaccination?
They haven't came up with one yet, and I'm sure they're waiting on what the county is going to do, and we'll go from department to department, and that'll be up to Sheriff LaRue.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Deutsch.
My question, Sam, is just in general, how are things in Dunsmuir? The type of attitude, the feeling of are there a lot of folks around that are doing bad things, or are we having a pretty good summer here?
I think we're having a really good summer. If you look at the stats, and then I can pull up Sergeant or Lieutenant Westsign's stats from last year. I mean, I feel crime's not that big of an issue. We're not responding to multiple calls for service. We're not arresting a lot of people. I mean, for the whole month, we only arrested 4.
We're gonna say you got 4, come on.
So, I mean, but on the other side too, that's only in the city limits. So, I mean, we also have the South First Street and all like that we handle, and those stats, and Mayor Brian and we talked about that a little while ago. I think it was at the Lola dinner about how, it affects the outside area. And I can only speak, I could pull up stats, but stats for Dunsmuir in general, I think are fairly low compared to other parts of the county. And I mean, if you see the hours and stuff like that, or the guys are putting down here, I mean, that deters a lot of people from doing things.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel it's paying off. I mean, that's our presence down here, and we're trying to clean up the Dunsmuir sub and make it more accommodable for the other deputies. And I know we've talked about cleaning it up and doing better improvements. I mean, having the city buying a new AC system for us just to make it livable in there. I mean, for the last month of June, when I was in there and stuff like that, I was talking to Todd, and I mean, it's 85 to 95 degrees in there, and we wear all this gear, and it's not accommodating for us to sit in there. And luckily Todd, who has a military background and wearing a bunch of stuff like that, he understands that we can't. It's hard enough for us to write reports at a computer and be sweating and all that, and it's just miserable. So we were using the Mount Shasta sub as much as we could, just to in the later part of the day, because we can get in the Dunsmuir sub in the morning and it'd still be tolerable. But after about 10:30, 11, when that god awful heat was going on, it wasn't nice. But now with the new temporary, hopefully we can get AC to both these places and heater units. It makes it a lot tolerable. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Finance Director Michelson.
Blake said he didn't have any comments.
Yeah, no reports, but I do. Wendy, if you want to let Elijah record, there is that. And if you want to make me co-host, feel free at any time.
Okay, I think it's too late for Elijah, so we're just gonna give him a Zoom link, but yeah, I'll make you a
Okay.
co-host.
Sweet. Thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Staff comments. Move on to council comments. Councilman Deutsch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I feel the need to once again bring up is that we're still in the middle of the virus. The Delta virus is, the variant is hitting us, and even the people that are vaccinated are getting breakthroughs. So the one thing I just want to make sure that gets out, if you haven't heard, I'm sure you probably have, but the variant provides about 1,000 times larger load into your nasal pharynx than the original virus. And so that's the reason why, if you do get infected and you are vaccinated, there's going to be a battle going on, but in the meantime, you have the ability to infect somebody else. So I just want to pass that along. And other than that, for the sake of the meeting, I'll cut my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Deutsch. Councilman Art.
Well, on the same point, I was absolutely appalled by the letter that the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors, on a 4-to-1 vote, sent to the governor, saying we think it's a personal choice whether employees should get vaccinated or not, or wear face masks or not, including registered nurses. It was only Ed Valenzuela that voted against it. I'd like to send a letter to the Board of Supervisors saying how vigorously we disagree with the notion that vaccination is optional. How are we going to manage economic recovery and a county health crisis? Little tiny hospital, 94% of those that end up in a hospital bed are unvaccinated. So I really am embarrassed on behalf of Siskiyou County as we all sit here and say you need to get vaccinated. We got the Patty Hill tree taken care of. The only other thing is I do subscribe to the San Francisco Chronicle. It's a pretty good paper. Front page Sunday was the title of the article, Small Scale Flyers Snubbing the Hubs. And this is for especially Northern California vacation destinations. The goal of a number of small carriers that now serve Truckee, some of the coastal communities, is to have small jets, and it will be cheaper from 20 to 700 miles to take a seat on one of these small jets than it is to take Uber or Lyft for the same equivalent transportation. So now there are a number of small carriers servicing Northern California that are looking to regional and sub-regional airports. And all of this is a prelude to going electric. What's coming next will be electric small aircraft, phasing out fossil fuel to fuel aircraft. So I'm very pessimistic about the future of our sewage plant, but I'm pretty optimistic that there are some things that we could do with the airport. So I submitted to the airport ad hoc committee.
Is that a positive comment about the airport?
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Take a note here, what day, what time?
Well, no, again, it goes back to closed session. The potential is definitely there. Mayor Bryan, who I understand moved to Mount Shasta, Mayor Bryce Craig and I worked for a long time with Tesla to get Tesla to put a fueling station in Dunsmuir. In the end, we came up slightly short and it went to Mount Shasta for any number of reasons. But the notion of getting a new runway but not reinventing the airport to be profitable, there is a potential for solar fields, there's a potential for greenhouses, there's all this potential that the sewage plant doesn't have, but it's got to be realized or it'll never happen.
Thank you, Councilman Art.
Thank you, Councilman Art.
Councilwoman Lucchese.
Hell's gonna be cold tonight, but it will not be cold here. I'm gonna be very brief tonight. We've met for 3 weeks in a row. I'm very tired. In addition to also having finance committee on top of it, which I will report out at the next meeting. Mainly a lot of the work going on has just been trying to facilitate and assist the city manager with some of our upcoming, the per capita grant with the parks. There are more parks grants that are opening up frequently. There's 2 more that are opening up that could qualify for moss spray. So we are in conversation with the Trails Association if we want to put in for those now. We decided not to put in for some grants that are closing in November because we felt it was too soon. We want to get that lease agreement in our hands. And when we do that, we become extremely competitive for these parks grants that would pay for 100% of the construction. So just keeping a pulse on that, trying to keep the project going so that we're able to get some money to do that without putting any impact on the ratepayers or taxpayers of the city of Dunsmuir. Speaking of which, I know that we're going to be talking about the rate study later, but this is not on the agenda. I am working on a proposal for council to consider in terms of the lifeline rates, a couple of different options for us to consider moving forward. I hope to have that report done so that we can consider it at least next month at a meeting to look at some options moving forward. Like I said, there's a couple of different ways we can do it, but I want the council to be fully educated to make sure that we're making the right decision for how to fund that type of program that's sustainable over the long term to help some of our lower income residents afford their utilities, food, electricity, and other types of essentials. So that is, I'm working on it, but it's been a long 3 weeks. In addition to that, I don't know if you've been watching, but the next assessment for climate change came out. It's not really great. This is the new normal. There's basically no going back. We are expected to have an increase in droughts from one drought. So the drought we're experiencing now is supposed to only happen once every 100 years. And now we're at the point where it's going to be happening once every 6 years. And if we continue to not lower our greenhouse gas emissions, it will happen once every 4 years and continue to get worse. And so I'm looking at a couple of different funding mechanisms for technical assistance to see what we can do to tackle climate change within the city of Dunsmuir and what's realistic for our community goals and for our community. I have a feeling in the coming years, our community is going to become much more attractive for people to come live here. People don't want to live in Coachella when it's 115 degrees. They want to come up to Dunsmuir where it's not nearly as hot. It's hot for us because this is, it's only 100 here, 104. But I think as we move forward, I think Todd makes a really good statement in the comments that we have a very consistent water source, and either that's going to get additional restrictions from the state to not use as much to give to others in California, or we're going to see more people want to move up here because we have abundant resources. It's also going to increase our natural disaster threats with flooding and wildfire, but I think it's something that's important.
Good question. Is there some way that we can find out actually that this is a source that is essentially unlimited? I mean, kind of assume that, but is there some chance that something's happening in the system now that could affect us?
So it's difficult with volcanic aquifers because there's not a ton of research in terms of supply. And so, for example, our water source comes from a volcanic tube, which can't necessarily, it doesn't follow a linear function. So you can't say this point here is going to be like a drainage that comes here. We actually have channels underneath, which makes it really difficult to estimate the groundwater. But to summarize it, we can get really in depth about this because I did a whole water thing for Mount Shasta that talks about it. But it's our water source in terms of, and Paul Reuter knows way more than I do, in terms of consistency, our amount of change year to year is much smaller than say other sources. It's a little bit more consistent, but I wouldn't say it's unlimited.
We also
But
own,
it's gonna be important.
I think, a half dozen springs. Really one of them for a while.
Thank you.
Don't tell other people that. But yeah, so I think climate change needs to start being addressed in a more serious fashion. I understand we're tiny and in the grand scheme of things, insignificant, but I think, you know, we do need to lead by example and start to work forward. Because at this point, you know, we don't have a future that's going to be equitable. Air quality is going to get worse. Water sources are going to get worse. Fire danger is already really bad, but it's only going to get worse if we continue to see droughts. So it's important. Thank you.
Really great now hearing all that.
How does that brain fit that head, you know? It's just so small.
I sleep a lot. Sleep's good for your brain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple things to report on. Before I do, I'd like to welcome a couple gentlemen to Dunsmuir. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say tonight. But on behalf of council and myself, City of Dunsmuir, welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, a couple things I'd like to report. One, Mike from the pool, believe it or not, today they put a lot of effort and energy, a couple of dollars, into providing a class for lifeguards. It was open to the general public. They even recruited. Not one person showed up. Mike will continue to promote this program so we can have lifeguards next year. I'm putting it out there now. This program is free. It can get you credits. It can get you your community service things. It can do a lot, plus it pays well. So I encourage those youngsters and old people, whatever, if you guys are interested in being a lifeguard next year, check with Mike at the Recreation Department. Mike Rodriguez has all the information. As far as the Tall and Dolly, reporting on Tall and Dolly, the pads have been poured. They're waiting on benches and tables. The posts and the signage, it all should be here by first part of September. He said mid-September, but he's hoping that the first part of September. And here, a special thing, he wants me to thank all the volunteers, city volunteers, private volunteers, the people that came out to help. And all this is a big shout out to Allison and her project for Tall and Dolly. I'm proud to be a Rotarian with her, and good job, Allison. My fellow council member mentioned something today about a vote that was taken with the county supervisors. And I stand with Ed Valenzuela and I commend the man. It took a big heart, a lot of cojones to make your stand against all the rest of the county supervisors, but he was the only one that voted, I think, normal. So I commend you, Ed. If most of you notice that the pizza factory is closed, I want to personally thank and commend Jeannie and Gary and the staff from the pizza factory for closing down once they heard that they were tested positive. Somebody was tested positive. For safety's sake and to protect the general public, they shut their doors. And I talked to them tonight. It's hurting business bad. They're all hurting pretty bad, but they did what they felt was the right thing to do. So if you guys see them, and when they open back up, you can show your support by continuing to go to Pizza Factory once they open. And if you guys get a chance, thank them. You know, I think that was pretty good. Mike Wright had a thing with the Pacific Crest Musical Orchestra, and it was a trail music by the mountains. And it was very successful. There was about 200 people that came, and I want to commend everybody that participated in that. Thanks for helping set it up. You guys rocked, and it was a great, even though it was smoky, a lot of people came out and attended it. It was a really good show, and I want to thank all the people, musicians, the have played. Good job, and you guys are outstanding. And last but not least, little bird told me tonight, there's been a lot of the dispensaries that before tried to contribute to events and organizations, but money was not accepted because they were a dispensary. Well, that has changed. Dispensaries are legitimate businesses. I'm proud to say that the Green Heart contributed as well as the rest of them, but the Green Heart was a majority contributor from Mount Shasta, contributed to our local children's backpack program in the Rotary Golf Course. I thank them. But tonight, the Green Heart stepped up one step better and outdid themselves. They donated $500, which Dylan presented to our own farmers market tonight. So good job. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I appreciate Green Heart, and I appreciate Dylan's hard effort in trying to look out for our farmers market. And if you haven't been to the farmers market, tamales are to die for us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Could I add one more thing? I apologize. Big Dave always reminds me to thank people more because he's always very thankful. I do have to say, for those of you who don't know, I've taken a job in Reading now, so I commute. Pacific Power and the shutdown that occurred the other night was so well handled. There are people still down in the Reading area. The man who owns the business I work for is literally sleeping in our office because PG&E has still not restored his power. So I think we do need to, next time we talk to Todd, who is the regional rep for Pacific Power, they have done a wonderful job keeping our lights on as much as possible, keeping us safe with their protocols. And I really do appreciate the fact that we got our power back. It went down at 3:30 in the afternoon and we got it back at about 2 in the morning.
In addition to that, I was going to mention, they gave us good warning.
Yes.
About 2 hours warning, we got it. And I got the chance to stop by at the community center. They set up a cooling center.
Yeah.
With lights, entertainment. They really went all out. They brought in 2 semi trucks worth of equipment. Lights were on. It was a good, safe, cool place to be. Thankfully, that was a very windy, cooler day, but could have easily been one of our 108-degree days.
Yeah.
So just if anyone knows if this ever happens again and you're struggling, come to look online, but if you can't do that, just come to the community center over by the Babe Ruth ball field.
Yeah, they did a really great job. And like I said, looking at some of my coworkers right now in the Reading area, Reading and Shasta Lake City have power because they have their own utility. But those who are in PG&E territory either didn't get power until over 24 hours later or still do not have power. So I think it's exceptional that Pacific Power has worked with us as such a great community partner.
And I believe this is the first intentional power shutoff we've experienced.
I've
Correct.
been here 12 years, the first time they did it in Tulsa.
And they came to council 2 years ago saying that they developed a program, but they wouldn't do it until certain criteria were met.
And you're right, that Todd guy was straight up professional, and having the community building available for the general public, I thought that was wonderful.
All right, let's move forward into committee reports. I know the finance committee met, but before that, were there any other committees which met in the last week?
It's all on finance, right?
Yeah, it's all on finance.
Well, I am still on the email mailing list for the IRWM. And apropos to what Juliana was saying, I just got an email today that there are special funds available in the new state budget to address small communities that are suffering low water conditions. It's a non-competitive grant. It's a significant amount of money. And my concern is we really need to stay closely wired to the IRWM, especially now that Juliana is no longer working for the city of Mount Shasta.
I believe Blake does attend those frequently as well.
But I think it ought to be a council member. I really do.
All right, thank you, Councilman Arth. We move on with the finance committee's report.
Would it be appropriate for me to report out finance committee since basically our meeting was all about the rate study, or would you like me to just report that out during the rate study
Why don't we
item?
just do that during the rate study?
Okay, great.
And then moving on to consent or approval of the minutes. For the prepared yet, so we'll do the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda?
Well, here again, especially with all the work that Mr. Bush has put into alerting the public, I would make the resolution somewhat stronger by adding a couple of points. I don't know who drafted the resolution, but I can either just make those as comments or ask them to be taken off the consent so we can talk about it a little bit.
Whichever your preference, Councilman.
I don't care.
If you want to amend the resolution, I would recommend taking it off of consent.
Let's, if everyone's okay with it, no objections. We'll move that.
We're removing D.
We're gonna move D to new business item. So it will become
E.
new business item E.
Okay. In that case, I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All right, motion and second, Councilman Deutsch. Any discussion of the motion at hand? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we have no public hearing tonight. We will have a public hearing regarding city setbacks, et cetera, on our September second meeting, but move on to old business, item 14. We do have the second reading of the short-term rental ordinance as we amended it several weeks ago. It's ordinance 560. And if there's no questions or discussion, I'd like to open it up to public comment. All right, I'll now open it up to public comment on our short-term rental ordinance, the second reading. As before, if anyone would like to comment on this, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes. If you're participating via Zoom, go to the participants tab and hit the raise your hand button.
Nothing on Zoom.
All right, seeing none. I know there was a great deal of public interest in it first couple times it came out here, so I'm glad that we've had sufficient public input. I'll now close public comment and move on to discussion.
I'm happy with the language in the ordinance itself and at the second reading. And if there's no other dissent, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 560. Let me go to the actual language.
560, no. We have the sequel thing there too. Do you want to-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
let me get to that.
Seven.
Oh, it's 570. The agenda was a little bit off. All right, I make a motion to, I motion to find that the project is exempt from CEQA and that we Ooh, this English is really bad. You've read it before. There's too many words. Okay. I motion to make the finding that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, and that we approve the ordinance 570 by title only.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Motion.
Good job to everybody.
Yeah.
The notion that this will be controversial once it takes effect. I do hope the city makes an effort to inform everybody about the permit requirements, the compliance requirements, so that it doesn't come as a big surprise. How do we work with Airbnb? How do we work with the other platforms to make sure compliance is the way we want it to be? But as far as starting with a good platform, addressing public concerns, looks like we did a good job.
And I would like to reiterate at a previous meeting, I did make a motion to also revisit this at least within 1 calendar year at the Planning Commission level, because I know one of the items that I had wanted to see in this but was not included was a limit on the total number of licenses. And if you'll remember the conversation with our contract planner, Rico Tinsman, we want to at least take a look at and register them to get an idea of the number of official, and then before we cap. So I just want to reiterate that I would still like to stand by that and encourage a review of this ordinance and its implementation within 1 calendar year.
Yeah, so January 2023.
Yes.
Call the vote.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries unanimously.
Good job, council.
Good job,
And
everybody,
everybody
and the
involved.
committee. Thank you.
Long process.
Staff.
Good job. All right, we move on to item B.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself on this item. As it worked out, I was contacted by the film company wanting to rent space in one of my buildings, and ultimately they reached a sub-tenant agreement with Nathaniel Wood, my tenant in the Cornet building. So they're currently hopefully enjoying the Cornet building. But I do have either a direct or an indirect financial interest in this matter, so I will excuse myself.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So noted. Thank you for the recusal. Thank you. This is consideration of by council of future street closures in support of filming a movie. We welcome you guys here tonight. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have questions. Todd, do you want to do a brief overview of your report?
Sure. I got back to Blake mentioned that he had several conversations with folks with the film production that's going on in town about potential street closures. The one they talked about is on October 27th. That runs late morning into the evening between Pine and Oak on Dunsmuir Avenue, completely closed, no parking on either side of the street. And on Oak between Sacramento and Dunsmuir Avenue. And I was informed, I met with some of the folks from the production yesterday, and they've told me there may be additional closures. And what I'm requesting in this is that you provide the latitude to the city manager to make decisions on closures that are acceptable as they come up. But in return, you know, the initial decision, you know, when I wasn't here, was to issue an encroachment permit because we don't have a film ordinance that doesn't really apply to this kind of situation. So what I'm proposing here and what I proposed yesterday is that we ask of the production crew that they provide a deposit of $5,000, and when we have we use staff time, whether that's sheriff time or whether it's city resources for traffic control, cones, you know, whatever it is, that we draw against that $5,000, and at the end of the filming, anything that's left over would be returned to the company. And one thing that's not written in here that I would also suggest, in the out case that the cost to the city are greater than $5,000, if we expend that $5,000 amount, that we ask for a new deposit. In return to the production company, we need to provide an itemized list, cost per position, and what was done, so they have an understanding of what it was that they're paying.
Thank you so much, Todd. Good summary of the report. I'd like to invite the gentleman from the filming to come up to the podium and introduce themselves and the project to us and the public.
Yeah, thanks for having us. My name's John Lurchin. I'm the lead producer on the project, which is essentially a project manager.
I'm Nick Silva as well.
Yeah,
Thank you all for having
Please
us.
talk into the microphone so that the Zoom.
My name's Nick Silva as well. Thank you for having us. I'm another producer on the project, and we just kind of wanted to keep you guys updated and tell you what's going on logistically with the film tonight and answer any questions, because it's a small town. We want to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, and before I talk about the permits, I would just like to kind of do a quick little summary, because this kind of parachuted in here. And essentially 3 weeks ago, we got our financing, and because of who the actor is that's attached, we had to shoot in 3 weeks. So I came in within a week of getting the money and started hitting the ground. So first thing I did was go over to City Hall and try to introduce myself, and want to be as open with everyone as possible and make this a positive experience for everyone involved, and something that hopefully it's tourists to come to the town, and something fun for everyone that's involved. Something else I wanted to get out on the table publicly was there's a certain entity and individual in the town that I think it was misconstrued that we were involved with them. And I just want to make it clear that we are on city's side and our goal is to put money into the city, and nothing has been, no resources have been put into that entity. So we'd rather put it into the local stores that are open and, help the town as much as possible with what resources we have. So.
Yeah, currently we're planning, I mean, as far as locations go, we have our film, 80% of it is taking place in Dunsmuir. We've had to drive outside a little bit, but the majority of our resources are all being placed into the town of Dunsmuir. Ace Hardware, Dylan, he knows us very well. Go over up to the supermarket as well. We're kind of like in town and we're very obviously in town. So we want to make sure you guys are probably getting calls about who are these random people with these cones, like roads. Sure, there'll be tons of questions. And I mean, if anything, we'd love to just extend our personal number for anybody if there were complaints so that we could have you reach out to us. That would not be a problem as well. We could do that totally at the end as well, give you all the information. But that's the goal, is to be putting the majority of the resources into Dunsmuir. Whatever we can't get, we have to be pulling in from Sacramento or San Francisco. And that's how we've been approaching it.
On social media from you that we could then turn around and share as a city so that we're letting everyone know rather than waiting for somebody to ask a question?
Totally, yeah. So the thing is with filmmaking, most of the time, everybody involved is signing non-disclosure agreements. We can't really talk or show parts of the film publicly, or then we won't have a distributor actually pick it up. Becomes a problem because the movie has been public, so nobody really wants it. So that's kind of a hard thing. We could certainly answer personal questions, or if anybody needed to reach out, we're down in I think it's the Blue Sky Room is what it was called. It's, yeah, Sangathong's the big neon sign, beautiful sign she has there. We're in there, and then we're also at Nate's building, and we always have people in there at all times. So it's an easy knock, an easy phone call. We're usually 5 minutes away, and we can get to the office to answer any questions. So yeah, that's pretty much a lot of it in a nutshell there. As far as also COVID safety is concerned, because obviously that's a point. We're in a small town. There's a lot of those things happening. Fire prep is a massive concern. Just in case something were to happen, we wanted to try to talk with the local fire chief. I had a number that I'd actually got from Nathan, but it seems like it's disconnected for the fire chief. So I wanted to make sure I can.
We'll get you the right number.
Yeah, extend our personal numbers as well.
He's out on give up still? He's out for a couple of weeks. Yeah, he's out for a couple of weeks still, but
yeah, or whoever needs to reach out would be amazing, just so we can make sure we're all connected and safe if something were to happen, because fires move fast. And as far as COVID is concerned too, we're required to be doing testing at all times on this set. So we're doing a PCR test once a week on Mondays for all of our members involved. We have 24-hour results, so we can make sure if anything were to happen, we can go ahead and isolate and take care of that problem initially. And then for anybody who is unvaccinated, they're doing the short term, I forgot the quick result tests, the antigen tests. Those are happening 2 times a week for those people as well. So we're making sure that if anything were to happen, we know within a day that there's an issue, and we can isolate that person and then make sure we test the rest of the crew and make sure things are clean before we continue doing production as well. And I guess there's obviously gonna be a lot of questions, but we also wanted to ask you as well if there's any areas that we should be cautious about, or to kind of keep our crew on. We have people all over the place. They're all the way down to Soda Creek and downtown and both hotels. We're kind of really spread out. So we just want to make sure we kind of give anybody a heads up on not to just be taking a random walk at nighttime in this neighborhood of sorts.
Well, that's the dude right there, he's our police chief.
Exactly.
you can say there's no specific neighborhood. Dunsmuir takes care of its own. Every neighborhood maybe has a house that's struggling here or there. But
Totally.
If you see anything, call 911. They'll get you through to the sheriff.
Yeah, we've been here 2 weeks, and I mean, John's been here longer, and it's been a very positive experience.
For the most part, we're a very quiet, respectful town, and definitely don't have any area that you point to as
beautiful.
I think
Cool.
one of the other people who are going to be notified, and I see Diana's hand from Clemens. Clemens is our waste hauler, so maybe she might be someone you want to get in contact with to make sure you're not blocking any of our waste hauling services or not dealing with any of that, but maybe she'll give a public comment as well. But
Got her hand raised, so she wants to say
yeah,
something.
so, yep, there she is.
Please,
Yeah, I figured
please,
the minute I saw
Diana.
her hand up, I'm like, oh, we need to make sure that there's no conflict within the waste hauling schedule. That'll probably be something that we talk about when we get to public comment and discussion.
100%. Yeah, we've organized for any of our waste to be disposed of, but we'll definitely, I'd love to confirm with Diana and give her a personal number as well to make sure that we don't have any.
You know, if the trash cans aren't part of your movie, you want to talk to her.
Yeah.
Or make sure we're not blocking certain avenues.
Totally. Beautiful. I mean, I believe that gives us a pretty good sum up there. I think we'll answer a lot through your questions. So we can kind of open the floor to that unless there's something you want.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's talk about this permit. We'll talk about the $5,000. You guys cool with that?
We're
Because,
cool.
I mean, you know, I got city staff working on this, I got sheriffs working on this, they all gotta get paid.
Yeah, no, as long, like Todd was mentioning, as long as I get an itemized list
You'll get
afterwards
an
where I
itemized.
see how it was spent, then absolutely I have no
All
problem with
right,
that.
cool. That's, as long as you guys are willing to pay to play, I don't got a problem with it.
That's 100%. We also do know, obviously, your department, everybody's really spread out. We talked to Sergeant Chrissy as well, and he told us how spread out you guys are. So we understand we're not going to be able to get certain things or be able to have an officer around because you have things to take care of. So that's obviously a discussion we can have and make sure that all the logistics work out.
And if there's something you need that you aren't able to source yourself, we're happy to try to pull it in from somewhere as well, whether that's like signage or whatever it is that you want to make it safe to your standards.
Yeah, if you guys communicate through City Hall,
I'm excited.
that's gonna be the most effective means because they know everything about it. Any further questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm ready to go to public comment and discussion.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Council.
Or-
Goodwitz.
Is there a day or list? I can guarantee you will be there for traffic control or security like that through the sheriff's office. I mean, in advance, right?
Sign them up.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can force people to work those days to make sure it's
Covered.
So, but I mean, another part of that too is we have enough disaster, like I was talking with 5 fires, we're gonna take them off of moves that security to the
oh, absolutely. And
So, but if you have days and times where you want 2 guys, 4 guys, certain times, yeah, I can make that happen. But sooner than
At a
later,
time, of course.
project it out. Like I said, you know, my last list is our contractors, city, and then we can actually have a Chronos tab, that's our billing. And so it's just that you work for them to the movie. You can itemize from sales office.
okay. Yeah, we have what's called a strip board, and that shows our daily scenes we're shooting and what the locations are. I will say we're like half locked on our locations. My goal is like the next 5-6 days to pretty much know where we're shooting for the rest of the 5 weeks. Hopefully with the help of the town to figure out what some of these are to feature.
Any help? I'm sure all of us know the town pretty well, but a lot of people do here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hey, we need this type of scene, you know, good spot. There's a lot of.
That would be very, very
cool
helpful.
little nooks and crannies in our town.
Oh, yeah.
And then based off of what that location is, I can say, okay, well, if we're shooting on Dunsmuir Ave, this house down here, well, it's probably not safe for my crew to be walking across the street if we're shooting across the street. So then I would need a permit. But until I have all of the locations 100% locked, it's very hard for me to tell you exactly when I need them, but I'll be in communication with you as quick as possible. And part of the parameters is one is it's moving very, very quick, and I'm trying to get as ahead of the curve as possible, but if we keep the lines of communication open, I think it'll be cool. It'll be good.
Thank
forward to
you. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Even if they are directly addressed to you, this is not a back and forth. They'll give the comment, and then we'll have the opportunity to address those all at once at the end.
So you want to sit down, is what he's gotta say, and just relax.
Beautiful. Yeah, as long as we can give our phone number to everybody at the end, just to make
you
sure.
wanna give
Should we
it
do
now?
that right now? That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my phone number is 636. This is for Nick Silva, 636-212-4229. That's 636-212-4229. And I think John's head usually looks like it's going to explode when we're getting moving in these things. So it'd be probably best to be calling me, and then I can chat with him and make sure we get everything legitimized for you or answer any questions that may happen there.
All right, Nick, thanks.
Yes, and did you need an email, or phone's probably fine? That's the
Email's
easiest.
Good too, I suppose.
Yeah, so email is Nick, N-I-C-K, at silvashots.com, which is my last name, SILVASHOTS.com. So again, feel free to reach out and we'll get an answer to you as soon as possible. or if it's obviously time is a necessity, please give us a ring. It's the easiest way because internet is really hard to get installed or find around here occasionally.
Well, we're gonna go to public comment right now, right?
Yeah.
So they can stick around.
Yeah, definitely.
You wanna bring Peter back in yet?
No, he's out for the whole item.
So for the whole
Okay.
item, yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm going to now open this item to public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment, it looks like we have one on Zoom. Raise your hand, or come to the podium if you're here in the room.
Diana, you can go ahead, Diana.
Clemens?
Hi, it's Diana with Clemens Waste Removal. I've actually been in contact with John, and they have set up service with a dumpster at the parking lot for St. Tong's. So my question is, I will give you my number. John has it, but I can give it to you also. We try to get our routes done fairly early so we can be out of the way. So if you, whatever kind of heads up that you guys can give us the night before would be awesome so that we can be out of your way.
I love it when everybody works together like this.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Thank you, Diana.
All right, thank
You're
you, Diana.
welcome.
Is there any further public comment on this item? Seeing none, thank you guys again for coming here. Let's open it up to council discussion.
So we have a lot of items on the agenda, and I appreciate everyone, but I'm going to be very quick on this because it's very straightforward. I think we're fine with this. I am in favor of the $5,000 deposit, and per the city manager's request, I think at 10% of that, the film crew should be notified to know that they're getting within that threshold of 5,000, and they can that's a typical number that we use is 10%, is when we're approaching 10% of the rest of the deposit left, that they should be notified and can sign back on to give us more money, at which time I'm more than comfortable trusting staff to set that additional amount based on how much they have left. I'm not going to micromanage this one. Let's just go.
This is a two-part, but I'm gonna second her motion. And I'm gonna make a second motion. I move to approve the requested street closures according to the appropriate permit already submitted and allow the city manager to approve other urgent street closures that would not be possible to come before council in relation to this project only.
Second.
All right, motion and a second on both accounts. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 4 with 1 recusal.
Thank you.
Welcome to the party.
Sorry to rush through that. We've got rate studies, we've got Clemens, we've got a lot of things tonight.
We've got a contract we haven't updated since 1973. We're about to.
We're looking forward to this, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your stay.
All right, okay. You want to tell Peter he can come back in?
Yes, we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I don't think we need you anymore. Bye, Sam.
Bye, Sam. Stay safe, man.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom while we wait for Peter. Can we recess for like 2 minutes?
Let's take a 3-minute recess.
We also are paying Paul Ruger to be on the phone and Paul's expensive.
All right, make it fast.
Hey, Sam.
Where's that coming from?
Right, see that little disc thing?
Oh.
Just press stop or reset.
Driving me to
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah.
Mr. Bush, good job. I appreciate this.
That's what we need, we need grassroots.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that. I want to try and bring people to the city council meeting as much as I can too. I want to bring people back.
I can tell you put a lot of effort into this, and I know you, so I know this came from the heart. So, I appreciate it.
I hope maybe we can talk about it a little bit. This is going to be on the agenda.
We'll be talking about it. Peter, make sure.
Yeah. So Dave, I was thinking, each of those little lights, they're waiting for the equivalent of.
Hey, Wendy, if you're there, mute yourself. I want to see if I can't hear them talk. And then Big
Okay, I'll
Dave.
mute. Okay.
What? You want to hear me?
Yeah, keep talking, Big Dave. Hey, cool. All right, yeah, so that works. That mutes. I'm not sure when that would be good, but maybe I was thinking when trains come by. But anyway, we can talk. Okay, you can unmute again. Thanks.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Put it on the mic?
I
Sure
can hear that.
Okay.
I try and at least put my body between the mic and I, so like I can do this, but like Peter has a harder time with his own mic.
On the Zoom, we can't hear the fan at all, Juliana.
Let's see. We
Yeah.
It's 7 watts.
Yeah,
So it comes out 7 times 20, it's equivalent to 150-watt bulb, it's in one lamp. All those 20.
Coming over tomorrow, put bulbs in there, adjust them, make sure they're all where they want to be.
Yeah. I have all the stuff for the, I have the order for those, crown molding.
Crown molding?
It's on its way. All the other stuff, all the different parts put together.
The only thing I have to do before I start mudding, I'm gonna drill a hole at the bottom, because you ordered at the bottom, because I got a hole at the top. That was going at the top, so. I get it.
How did we get so many like big ticket items on an agenda?
I don't know.
There was more I was going to put on.
Oh, Jesus.
Who was on the meeting for this one?
It was,
Pre-agenda?
myself and Matthew.
Well, that's why, Juliana.
See, when I'm on pre-agenda, I'm like, no more than 3 topics. I don't want to be here forever. Man, we've had like 3 weeks of just like meetings. I am tired. And yeah, so we get 1 week break.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Tim Stearns hasn't been an idiot, has he?
Yeah, that's true.
So, there you go.
Do you want this Chronicle back, by the way, or?
No, I want you guys to start doing deals.
All right.
Well, the economic, that's the nice things.
Yeah. Transportation shifts so drastically.
Well, if we're gonna be more thoughtful, automobiles and trucks, and buses. And apparently Google is getting really close. 6 passengers, really big off the land. And at this point, like automobiles, it's gonna be a problem because of 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right when you are.
We'll wait for Wendy.
I just really wish there was a train to Reading. Like, I would love to have like. I'm not gonna go to work at 12:30. I'm not gonna
You
go
can get
at
back by
12:30.
7 or by midnight.
It's like 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning. Okay.
I'll just work like 2 24-hour days.
What if you had a little private electric Juliana?
I would love that.
Just sit right on there.
I would love
On the
that.
track.
Yes, exactly.
I would.
We should just put a cable and just down the hill on the cable. All the way.
How do you get back up?
Well, that's another story.
Oh, you're like talking a zip line, not
Yeah,
like
zip
a,
line.
I thought you meant like one
No,
of those
you can
little
zip all the way there.
gondolas.
You have to hitchhike home.
Wendy's back.
All right, all right. We'll call this meeting of the city council back to order. And we are now moving on to new
15A.
New business, 15A. This relates to our closed session item. It's for the city manager's contract amendment that we approved last December or January, sometime in there. We said, upon satisfactory review, we said we would award our city manager between 2.5 and 5% increase in salary. I'd like to, if there's no clarifying questions, open this item up to public comment. See no public comment. So I will now close the public comment period on item 15A and move forward into discussion.
I'm fine with the exemplary evaluation, excellent evaluation that we gave City Manager Uhas and his work that he's done for the past year. I'm comfortable with making a motion to approve an increase in the city manager's salary consistent with the amendment language adopted in fiscal year 2021 with an increased percentage of 5%.
I second that.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion at hand?
Roll call.
See no discussion? Let's move into a roll call vote.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Aye.
Mayor Bryan.
Aye. Thank you, Todd. We really appreciate it.
Congratulations,
Excellent work.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
All right, 15, new business, item B, approval of solid waste contract language with Clemens Waste Removal LLC. I'd just like to thank the committee, Councilman Arth and Councilman Lucchese, and Todd and Blake for this, as well as Clemens. Todd, would you like to introduce the subject?
Let me do this. So the Solid Waste Ad Hoc Committee, which is consisted of myself, Councilman Arth, Councilwoman Lucchese, and Diana from Clemens. And our goal here, was to pass language that is consistent with the services that Clemens is already providing. And the end game here is once we pass the language through 2020, we have rates for the public that have already been adopted. So that gives us through the end of this year to start the 218 process and look at what we need to charge for rates for just basic services through the duration of the contract, which is 2029. We will, after this meeting, we need to appoint 2 members of the public to expand the solid waste ad hoc committee to get at items that the rest of the state have already mandated. That includes green waste, organics, the provision of blue bins. We have what's called a rural exemption through the end of 2026. So part of the charge of this committee is determining, okay, is there anything above and beyond the mandates that we want to include, keeping in mind how this will impact costs for the public, and when exactly we want to phase in the additional elements to make sure that we're consistent with meeting the rural exemption deadlines. So what we're here for tonight, again, is to pass the basic contract language that we've worked out in our our limited committee up to this point with Diana Duran from Clemens and our truncated solid waste ad hoc committee. And we've got that language worked out. It's just making us whole, and the public will continue to receive the services they have been receiving, and what they pay will remain consistent through the end of this year.
Thank you, Todd. Just clarifying question, will it be the same for the end of this year, calendar year or fiscal year?
Through
I believe it's fiscal.
it's through fiscal year. Yes.
Okay, so through to June 30th of next year.
Yep.
Great, and then the only other question I had was regarding rates, just clarifying, it said see attachment A. My packet didn't come with an attachment A, or has attachment A with nothing on it. Was that updated, or is that yet to be kind of developed?
Attachment A may have been mislabeled. That is the full contract itself.
Oh, are you talking about the
Rate sheet.
the rate sheet?
I've got one that says attachment A rate sheet, but it's just a blank page.
It should be in there.
Let me find it. Do.
What page is that?
We're looking for it.
90 of the agenda packet.
90 or 91?
What?
90 or 91?
Okay. What page of the contract? is it?
Oh, I see where you're at.
Yeah, it was more just a reference point to see. I love the methodology. Well, that's beyond clarifying questions. I was just wondering if it, yeah.
It would be the current rate structure. We do have it.
So the rate sheet in the packet right now, it looks like it didn't get attached. It's what has been approved in prior years. What I meant by the attachment itself was the entire contract. So what we're up for is just passing the contract language. We've previously agreed on the rate through fiscal year, this fiscal year.
Okay. No, it was just a basic question about that. That's clarifying. Are there any other clarifying questions?
Well, I may have misheard, but the suggestion is this is a one-year contract, and it's not a one-year contract.
It's not.
No, it is. It's a multi-year.
It's a multi-year contract, and I hope Diana gets to talk to us a little bit to see if she's happy with what we've done. But the whole idea is we're getting away from one-year Band-Aid 1970 contract. So this is as comprehensive and forward-looking, including all of the state requirements for 3 bins and waste stream disposals, recycling, reuse. We've had a really good set of discussions with the state agency that oversees this, Cal Waste, and they are volunteering to help us and the county, because we have to work together closely with the county as a single entity to conform with our rule exemption and what we're going to do in the next 3 years. But the rates start out just the way they are, and then there are rate review periods as we go through the 7 years of the contract.
All right, and there's no projections on those as of yet.
Right.
No, we would post the approval of the contract. The solid waste committee would then move into appointing public members. And then we would move into more of a Brown Act committee structure. And then we would begin the process of a similar 218 committee structure, as you've seen with water and sewer, where we'll have to do a number of surveys to customers about different services they'd like to see, also looking at willingness to pay. So again, you might not want a Christmas tree pickup in February if it's going to cost you $70 to do that. So we want to look and make sure that when we're putting those together for the rate study, it's something that, one, services that people want, and 2, services that people are willing to pay for, and then going into calculating those out in a multi-year rate study similar to water sewer.
That's correct. So the contract is through 2029. It is not a one-year contract. This is passing the language through, that would apply through 2029. The only thing that is not here is what this will cost after this fiscal year, and then this, hopefully we get the permission to move forward with the 218 process as we get into the expanded solid waste ad hoc committees with two members of the public for the purpose that Juliana mentioned. She provided some examples.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Ready for a motion?
No, we got to go to public comment.
All right, well, I'd like to welcome Diana here as well.
She's raising her hand too.
Yeah, so I'll open up to public comment. Let's start with Diana.
Thank you very much for having us. Juliana, just to reference what you mentioned about the Christmas trees, once January 1st of this year, they will not accept any kind of wood that's treated. So if the trees are flocked, they're considered hazardous waste and they will not accept them.
That is new information. Thank you. I like learning new things.
As far as the contract, I am thrilled that we're finally at this point in this in our journey. I don't know if any of you that were on the ad hoc committee received the message from Cal Recycle about the different options we have should Prop 218 fail, as far as wanting to establish some of the things that we have a rural exemption for. At the end of 2026, there are some options should Prop 218 fail that we can look at. But other than that, pardon me?
I'm sorry, Diana, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got that late in the day. I'll share that with counselors tomorrow.
Okay. The only other thing that I asked was, I had mentioned to Todd earlier today that I had mentioned to him a little bit ago about the contract rates for the contractor for us be retroactive to July 1st, as we have been working without a contract since June 30th. None of the contracts that we've had that have ended, none of the extensions that we have that have ended ever had language onto what pay there would be, what the rates would be during the interim part of negotiations. So that was one thing that I did ask for. I don't know if that's something that was discussed or not.
So thank you for that. The question is this. Diana laid it out pretty well. I've got a call into John Kenny, and since right now the way this contract is written, that it is formally in place as of September 1st. My understanding, and I need confirmation from John Kenny, is that we can't pay Clemens for work that has already been done. But what we can do, and I need to confirm this with John, is the period that has elapsed between July 1st and September 1st, we can make Clemens waste hauling whole through, it's basically it's a shell game, and instead of saying it's back pay, it's a bonus. Does that make sense for folks?
Yeah. So that would have to be a separate item that we would bring back at the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Right, since it would be a separate item.
Yeah, I'll get the confirmation from John tomorrow.
Let's defer that to another time. But as far as the contract before us, we're technically in public comment time. So if there's any other members of the public that would like to make a public comment. Seeing none, let's move it forward to discussion.
Yeah, but before we do that really quick, we'll bring the compensation back at the next meeting with, at least from my opinion, my intent is we want to make sure that we are paying for the services that were rendered. We just want to make sure it's legal, legally done.
Pay it at the same rate that we had as if we had a 2-month extension.
Yeah, well, I don't want to necessarily get into a discussion of that. I just want to let Diana know that it is our intent to make sure that this is done in a legal, open process, that it's.
And that she is whole.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Diane?
Yeah, she did. She gave us a
Can I
thumbs
make a
up.
motion? I'd like the motion to approve the solid waste contract between the city and Clemens Waste Removal LLC.
Second.
2021-18.
Resolution number 2021 dash
20, is it 21?
2021-18.
2021-18.
No, I'm very pleased with everybody's work. The contract wouldn't have happened without Juliana and Todd. I don't know where she swiped the contract.
And Diana.
from. And Diana, I mean, to actually be working with a service supplier and dealing with what hasn't been dealt with since ever, 20 years.
More than 20 years.
So we're starting to move. Water, sewer, solid waste, starting to move.
All right, we'll do this one, roll call.
Councilmember Arth,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler,
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese,
Aye.
Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
and Mayor Bryan.
Thank you, everyone involved.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you,
Doc.
guys.
Go get your truck.
Oh, honey, I am dying. And it's, unfortunately, they're like 6 months out.
Oh,
Oh, no.
But that's
it could be
okay.
worse. It could be
That's
worse.
okay. I have people to call now that I have a signature, so we're good to go, baby.
We're excited. We're all excited. Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Hey,
You
Diane,
too.
thanks for hanging in.
Right, then let's move on to the very exciting topic of new business item C, tentative approval of Public Works Director position.
So this item is still in front of the Finance Committee, so I respectfully request that we table item 15C to the next available city council meeting.
I'm on that committee with her, so I'll second it.
Do we need to vote ruling from the chair? Good idea.
That's a great idea. I'm very supportive. The Finance Committee hasn't fully explored this topic. We would like their recommendation on our fiscal position relative to creating a new position.
Yeah,
always.
and our next meeting will be on the 30th of August, so it will be before our next city council meeting, so hopefully we will have that finalized for you at that time.
Okay, I just don't want to miss out on any opportunities relative to the creation. All right. No, we're.
I think there's general consensus.
Okay, general consensus. Table it till another time. Then we'll move forward to item D, approval to move forward on a 218 process in support of sewer and water rate study increase.
Well, this can't be ready to go either, can it?
Finance Committee did meet on all of the items, and we do have a recommendation.
But we were gonna, there were requests to see the rates.
Yeah, why don't we
didn't
let
do
Paul, why don't we let Paul Bruder walk through what he walked through at the Finance Committee? And he's answering the questions that were raised at the last city council meeting.
Yeah, I'd also say that it's really in the finance committee's hands right now in terms of reporting out.
Well, and there's a promise. I'm very interested in doing either baseline or lifeline or dealing with low-income parts of the community, and none of that's there yet.
Correct, yeah, and we cannot do that within the 218 process. And so as I mentioned during member comment, I'll be bringing an item back at a future meeting because it has to be separate. We can't do that within the rate study itself. But in terms of the Finance Committee, Paul, I don't know if you want to share your screen or I didn't see the information that Paul had presented to us on Monday in our packets or available to us. That is kind of essential. So I was hoping that that would have been shared with everybody else.
Yeah, there's nothing here, so.
Todd or Paul, is there an ability to share that on the screen or? Because it sounds like Councilmember Arth doesn't even want to hear the item until he can see the information.
Well, you know, the Finance Committee and the Treasurer were supposed to give us their best shot.
Well, do you want it? I've got it.
Not like that.
Well, I can report out.
Hey, Blake, can you pull up the information that Paul presented on Monday?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Okay, while you guys do that, I can at least report out the votes.
Yeah, we had several key issues, mostly what it would look like without the $500,000 interfund borrowing, what it would look like without paying off a water fund. And then, of course, background of it all, we want to look into lifeline rates. Those
Yeah.
were the key issues. In addition, we had the wintertime water usage.
Yep, we did cover that as well.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, we covered all that. Again, we did not discuss the lifeline item as part
That's
of this.
separate?
Yeah, because it is separate, and I'll bring back an item at a
I
future
simply
meeting.
disagree with that, so I'm gonna be voting no on everything until we get that cleared up.
That's fine. So the finance committee began the discussion by looking at what the payment of the water loan would be. It's a $310,000 loan at a 5.125%. That would come from the payment from the water fund reserves. Basically, Paul did check with USDA. USDA will not refinance loans without a new project. So that is an option if we do go for a new project. But here we go.
Question on that, would it be, if we did a new project with water and a USDA loan, could we refinance sewer at that point, because the same agency, or would it just be within the funds?
It could be within the same agency, I believe, but Paul, please correct me if I'm wrong. We only discussed it through water.
Right. Sewer is the main place where we were hopeful for it.
Yeah, Matt, I'm not sure that they would cross the funds because the loan needs to be secured by one
fund.
enterprise fund. And so I've never seen where they'll go across enterprise funds.
But the finance committee did discuss with Paul and looked at the possible savings related to that. And I think, Blake, it's the other document, not that one. But basically, the finance committee voted 4-0-1 in favor of paying the water loan off with the water reserves because it does reduce our overall rates over the next 5 years if we do that.
That saves us $250,000.
Yeah, and it does save us $250,000 in interest payments on that loan over the period of the loan's lifespan. The one abstention is Treasurer Rubino, who did not review the information before the meeting and felt he could not make it a decision. But Len and Mike, Dave, and myself did review the information, and we were comfortable with the recommendation and voted in favor of moving that forward. We did review the commercial rates. And Paul, maybe if you want to walk us through that, since Mayor Bryan was very interested in that.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that we're dealing with, we have the city's water consumption from the last time we did the water rate study. And so none of that data is updated. And really to do a credible review on it, we would really need new data and see how water use trends have changed. I know that there's been business changes and property changes and that sort of thing in the 5 years since we did the last study. So the one thing I did look at, though, because the motel accounts were brought up in the last council meeting. So I looked at the 6 hotel accounts and kind of compared their wintertime water use versus their monthly water use to see if there was a trend amongst that user class that suggested that, more water was used at certain times of the year, et cetera. And basically what I saw is that, half of the motel accounts actually use more water in the winter than in the summer. And 2 of the 6 accounts were reasonably close between winter use and the remainder of the year. But there was one account that used considerably more water during the rest of the year over the winter months. And so I believe that particular account has a fairly extensive irrigation requirement and outdoor water use requirement. And really at this point, without doing more investigation with more current water consumption data, I think it's difficult to draw a conclusion that that user class needs to be treated any differently than the basis for the rates in 2019.
So in addition to that, the committee did discuss the payout to doing a extension of 1 month for the study to include that type of assessment. And so if we were to delay the study 1 month, so if we do not get approved rates by November 1 and we get approved rates by December, it would add one whole dollar to each year of the rate study. Which,
dollars out in out years.
sorry, say again?
So it would add $1 to the rates in the short term and $2, when you get a couple years out.
Yeah, so in a fiscal year 21-22, instead of $59, it would be 60, 67 versus 68. And then by the 24-25 year, we would be paying $77 if we were to implement rates by December 1, 2021, as opposed to $75. And so the committee did discuss that. We do feel that there is merit to looking at the commercial water analysis, but the committee voted 4-0-1 to wait on the commercial analysis. And we did request Paul Reuter come up with a quote for what that additional analysis would cost and do that at a future time, at least within the next couple of months. So that is our recommendation on that. And they recommend investigating that in the future, but not at this moment. And they did not want to delay the 218 process due to that factor.
So it looks like we're setting ourselves up for potentially doing another 218, adjusted either to that or for the numbers needed for potential lifeline rate, depending on different options for funding that.
So we did discuss we will have to do a 218 for solid waste, and we could include it at that time during that process. So we could have some cost savings within that and only having to do one notice.
Councilman
So that was what was discussed at the committee, and the committee's recommendation was 4-0-1 with, again, Treasurer Rubino abstaining. Lastly, we discussed the interloan information from the water fund to the sewer fund. The committee, let's see. Okay, so the comparison for the sewer rates without the interfund loan, we'd be looking at a $10 increase, and then upwards. That would slowly go down, but it would basically be a significant increase in the 21-22 fiscal year. If we did do the $500,000 interfund loan, we would be looking at a $59 base rate in 21-22. Without the interfund loan, we would be looking at a $69 base rate. And then it increases incrementally up from there. The rates by 25-26 fiscal year would be almost the same, $77 with the interfund loan, $78 without. The committee, again, had a 4-0-1 vote to approve or recommend an approval of a $500,000 interfund loan. One of the other factors they took into account is if we did both the interfund loan and paid off the $310,000 water loan, that we would still have a 25% reserve within the water fund. And so the finance committee felt that that was a smart thing to do to, again, lessen the increase of sewer fund rates. We did discuss a percentage interest on that interfund loan. The committee, actually, it wasn't even Dave and I who suggested it. The committee voted 4-0-1. Actually, even Treasurer Rubino voted in favor of having a 0% interest rate because we felt it would just be paying the city. And so they did not want to see an interest rate placed on that loan, but they did want to see a funding schedule to make sure that that was paid off in a timely manner. So again, the committee voted in favor 4-0-1 for using the water fund, recommending to use the water fund reserves to pay off the water loan. We voted 4-0-1 to recommend waiting on the commercial user analysis to pair it most likely with the solid waste analysis. And then the committee voted 4-0-1 for a 0% interfund loan to pay off the sewer fund loan, or the $500,000, or sorry, to pay into the sewer fund for their portion of that.
And to remind us all that that loan would be paid off in full in 5 years?
Which one? I don't think we did talk about a time for the sewer fund. Paul, could you jump in about the sewer
Sure.
fund payoff?
The proposed rates are based on paying that loan off in 4 years, with the first installment starting in year 23-24.
Thank you. But that was the chief of
Yeah,
our.
so to go back to the heart of the issue with the loan question, I think my own reluctance to go down that route, if at all possible, being shared by a lot of people here, was just the common practice. I think it was mentioned that our auditor is in favor of it. Did we get any professional opinion from either legal counsel or?
The committee did recommend checking in with John Kenny
Which
about the interfund loan.
it's fine. And we also checked in with Charlie.
We did also talk about that if we do an interfund, it's going to be important to treat it like the interfund with the airport, where it will need to be a resolution approved by council with strict timelines, basically codifying that 0% interest, and that will have to be a separate item. But I believe, and I think we did mention this at the meeting, if it's an interfund loan between the general fund, there does need to be an interest rate, but if it is an interfund between enterprise accounts, it does not legally have to have an interest rate if we so choose not to have one.
I would like to state, if I could, that on behalf of the rate study committee, I thought that the finance committee did a good job of adding value to the analysis that you've given us, so thank you.
And, thank you so much. Are there any questions, further questions regarding the committee report? Seeing none, I'm going to open this item up to public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment on this item, please come to the podium or hit the raise your hand button. Seeing none, hello?
I think it's just Todd.
Todd? Oh, seeing none, I will close the public comment period on this item. Take it away, Todd.
I think you might be on the other one.
I'm sorry, Matthew, one more time.
Oh, sorry, I was just closing public comment. I thought you had something to say.
Nope, just paper rustling.
Okay. All right. I know this, there's concern about moving forward fast on this. I think that might be partly on my part and Councilman Arth's part, because we haven't sat on a committee that's got to dig into it yet. I do respect the work that has taken place on both committees that have reviewed it. It's a difficult thing trying to curb the effect of these increased rates on all of our citizens with the need to have, our vital infrastructure strong and healthy reserve position. So I guess I'd like to open discussion with one more kind of clarifying question. What is the process were we to move this forward tonight, and what is the need to do it tonight?
I think that was a question for Todd/Paul.
Yeah, so the reason to do it is to make sure that we hit our November 1st deadline. So we're not wasting any months. If we, again, as we mentioned before, if we end up in December, that's another $1 right away that we're added to the rates, and $2 a couple of years out, and on and on and on. So we need a certain amount of time to notice this, to make sure that we hit the November 1st deadline, so we're not, overburdening, even more overburdening our citizens over this issue.
Okay.
Are you looking for a motion for approval?
I just want to start off and just say I apologize that you didn't get the documents that Paul provided the finance committee. I was hoping those would be forwarded to you after the meeting, and I dropped the ball on that, making sure that you guys got this information, because it basically in-depth answered basically most of the questions that we had related to the different options available. The finance committee felt the information that was presented to them was really good. And like I said, Len and Mike asked some really, really good questions of Paul and looking at different options that we can move forward with. So I felt like they spent a lot of really good time looking at the options and really kind of weighing what's really at stake. They were exceptionally animate adamant about moving forward with this process to not cost us any additional funds. We did ask Paul about, if we did move this forward and not, deal with it right now, if it's something we deal with next year. And again, it's just every month that we go by, it's going to significantly increase what we're going to have to charge. Specifically, sewer is going to be a pretty nasty fund if it continues to be depleted at the rate that it's at.
Yeah, and Finance Committee first discovered this almost a year ago, so they've been on that the entire time.
I felt the committee had a really good, robust discussion. And again, even though Treasurer Rubino did not vote with us in either direction, he did engage Paul and did engage Blake about the discussion and had a pretty open one. I was hoping he would be able to attend tonight and give his opinion of it, because we did ask for it, in terms of how he would vote or what he would recommend as the treasurer. But unfortunately, he's not here today. But it was a very good discussion, and I felt that Treasurer Rubino had most of his questions answered as well. Again, I can't speak on his behalf whether he agreed or disagreed with them.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve and move forward with the 218 process in support of sewer water rate study increase.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to move forward with the approval of the 218 process. Discussion of the motion.
I just have a clarifying question for Paul and Todd. Do we need to make motions on the water loan sewer interfund at this time?
Paul?
Because it would matter, I would assume, to the rates that we would be communicating to the public.
I'll defer to Todd on that one.
I recommend that we include.
Honestly, that's a great point. I think that we need to pass a resolution about the interfund loan.
And then the gentleman who made the motion in the second, would you hold on to that until we make a motion on the water loan and the interfund?
Sure.
Okay. Just so that we can make sure we have those answered specifically.
So are we going to create a resolution now?
No, I wouldn't say, I would, so for the interfund, here, I'll go ahead. Motion to create a resolution outlining the terms of an interfund loan between the water fund and sewer fund regarding the $500,000, or for an amount of $500,000 to be brought back at our next city council meeting.
I'll second that.
So you would not be approving the loan or disproving the loan. We would just be bringing a resolution back for consideration.
So to clarify, we're approving moving forward with a 218 process with the rate study as presented. There's nothing in our packet here to follow up on.
Correct.
This is as presented at the last meeting?
Well, we have to clarify if we want to do the interfund loan, and we have to clarify if we want to pay off the water loan with the reserve first, because that changes the rate that we would be proposing in the rate study.
Okay, so as far as getting the clock going, can we even do that tonight then, without those resolutions?
Well, I recommend that if we were to have our motion include that we want to approve the interloan and bring back a resolution, if we include the words, we approve it, then that puts that in place. Right?
Well, we would, I think what you meant to say is we would approve paying off the water loan with the water reserves, and we would return with a resolution regarding an interfund loan between the water fund and sewer fund for the $500,000.
Don't we have to have that beforehand, though?
No, you just need a rate study that shows a schedule.
Is that enough for you, Todd and Paul?
It is.
Do we need to have a special meeting to make sure that this is done appropriately, legally, making sure everything's good? Because at this point, I feel like Mayor Bryan and Councilmember Arth bring up a point of we need to see the rate schedule before we move forward with the 218, and it's a little bit muddled, and I don't think there's a lot of trust in what's going to be put forward at the moment. And I don't necessarily disagree with them. We might need a special meeting to start the 218 to make sure we have what the rate schedule is going to be.
Well, I have my own hesitancies on this issue, but I do greatly respect the Finance Committee's involvement with it and the original rate committee's involvement with it. But are we upset with time-wise? I mean, the 218 needs a certain amount of time to get it approved by November 1st, and that's the constraints we're under. Does it absolutely have to be tonight to make November 1st?
So I'll jump in here real quick. The most economical way is to include the Prop 218 notice. So if I back up one step, a Prop 218 notice will be sent to all ratepayers and any rate owners, account owners. So it's economical to send it within the utility bill, right? So if we go forward with it, we could send out the notice that will say 45 days from such and such date that it gets mailed. And we normally try and get the bills to our ratepayers by the 1st of the month. So if we got it to everybody by September 1st, that would start the 45 days. Then subsequent to that, we could have the town hall, other meetings establishing what the rates will definitely be or would look like going forward. So at least at this point, it would be beneficial to approve going forward with submitting the Prop 218 notice to get sent. And, we may even be too late for the September bill. So maybe a moot point. We normally try and do it by the 15th, but I think we can try and get it.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we'd be well advised, the rate structure is going to be changed, and by November 1st, let's start the 218 process. The exact schedule we're proposing for that negative ballot is not yet solidified. Is that correct?
We'd love to have the 45 days after when the Prop 218 notice is sent for that public hearing to count the votes.
I think the concern is if we're sending a notice, we would want to have what the proposed rates solidified, and we can't do that until we know what those rates are and need that in our packet. I think that's the concern. So if we do, if we do vote tonight to bring a resolution back for the interfund loan, if we do vote tonight on moving forward with paying off the $310,000 water loan, then we could bring back the actual rates that we're going to present people before we send it out. I think that's the concern that's been voiced, is knowing exactly what those rates are going to be.
Hey, Juliana, can I say something?
Go ahead, Paul.
The rates as presented at the last council meeting are the rates. So assuming the council approves the interfund loan and paying off the water fund, the rates as presented at the last council meeting apply.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. So it's what we see right there, the 59 is for sewer.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So council tonight needs to approve paying off the loan.
This is why we don't have so many topics in one meeting.
I know.
And why we should have stuff in our paperwork.
Please don't do this to me again.
Okay, well, I would be comfortable moving forward with beginning this process, but.
Which technically there is a motion on the table by Councilmember Keisler, seconded, I believe, by Councilmember Deutsch or vice versa, to move forward with the process. And I'm okay now with that, knowing that the rates presented at the last meeting is what we're going to present in that.
But we also have to approve the fund loan to make sure that the rates that we'll be putting out for the 218 process are correct as shown.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll call a vote. If the consensus is to proceed.
There's been a motion and a second.
Could you reiterate what your motion is, Big Dave?
Sure. The motion is to approve and move forward on a 218 process in support of the sewer and the water rate study increase.
Say increase as presented at last council meeting.
As presented at the last council meeting. And to move forward to pay off the water loan? or not?
If you want to amend your motion,
I
say
want to
that.
amend it to, to include to pay off the water loan.
I'll second that.
Interfund borrowing.
That way we got it all covered right now.
Did you say water loan or sewer loan?
Water.
Water.
Oh, sewer will
Pay
be a
off the
separate-
water
And that
loan.
keeps our rates what it said at the last meeting.
The interfund loan will be dealt with in a separate resolution.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to separate.
There you go.
Follow the road.
All right, any further discussion of this new motion at hand?
No.
All right, Wendy, can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Arth,
No.
Councilmember Keisler,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucchese,
Yes.
Councilmember Deutsch,
Yes.
Mayor Bryan.
I'm not altogether pleased with the process here at council. However, I do really appreciate Finance Committee and I respect their opinion, so I'm going to vote in favor of their recommendation, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last one. E.
And just to clarify, did we include the interfund is coming back with the resolution at the next meeting? I believe that's what I heard.
It needs to come back at some point as a separate item with terms, et cetera.
Correct. Okay. We should probably do that in the next meeting.
Next meeting, Tom.
Please, please.
Please.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for being here with us tonight.
Yep.
And
Thank
for
you,
doing
guys.
The additional
Ready?
research, we appreciate your support and helping correct the sewer errors.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Paul.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
So can I provide a preamble to our item E? I've worked with Michael Bush on this issue that he's very concerned about, and I understand his concerns. You know, the timber harvest plan has been approved and public comment has been closed for a while. That doesn't mean we might be able to move things off the block. So the decision was made to focus on moving the access road to the harvest itself. And I don't know, Matthew, if you want to express your concerns about getting too involved in what happens on private property. You know, I think that I think we are in our rights to ask that the approach road to the harvest be moved because of the water, the runoff, the dust, the noise, etc. You know, but you mentioned that the actual timber harvest itself on private property, maybe we don't want to touch.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying I really appreciate Mr. Bush's effort in bringing this to our attention. It's a very large issue. Multiple jurisdictions apply, 2 different counties, a lot of private property. I just wanted to remind the council that as much as we have opinions about things that happen outside of our jurisdiction, and sometimes it's appropriate when it affects us very directly to express an opinion, but to refrain from getting too involved with opinions on everything that happens outside of our borders. I do think it's absolutely appropriate when something's this close to do what we can to express our opinion, but to encourage everyone to support Mr. Bush's efforts on this front by going to the public comment or submitting public comments to the CAL FIRE public review, where the entire public, you know, correctly has the place to comment on the timber harvest as they're approving or disapproving them.
So, if I could, I remember that Mr. Art had a couple of things, that's what we pulled it off, so we could address those.
Yes, Mr. Art.
Well, I didn't really understand your last comment because Mr. Bush has got it right. There are jurisdictional parts of Dunsmuir that suffer substantial jeopardy if the fire roads are in the wrong place as currently proposed, NC number 4. So you know, rather than just saying very interesting, Michael, let's go on to the next item, I'm glad that we are actually addressing it. I think the resolution could be made somewhat stronger in 2 regards, and I did sign one of the petitions, but there were somewhere between 90 and 175 signatures, so it's not just one unhappy camper in Dunsmuir. I think that ought to be part of the resolution. The other part I feel more strongly about, having litigated the matter, is how poorly the city has treated the Blackberry Hill neighborhood in the past. So one of the comments that Michael made is above the main neighborhood in Dunsmuir that has always been known as low income and minority. So things no one else wants to put here are put here. The people cannot fight the power. And I do think environmental justice, which is a big issue with me, that for fire protection and most city services, that part of Dunsmuir tends to get forgotten. So I think whoever's proposing to do Road NC4 needs to have specific outreach to the city and this community.
Before we get into discussion, just to clarify that, we're in questions. And
We're
then,
clarifying questions regarding the resolution.
But that's, the question was, what would I like to see? I would like to see as strong a resolution as possible that I obviously support of.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remove it off the consent agenda. It was only placed there because of the enormous number of items on the regular agenda and the timeliness of getting this to the interested parties. So I'll open this up to public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please come to the podium or hit the raise your hand button.
you can go ahead, Michael.
Michael Bush, Butterfly Avenue. I was happy to see the resolution on the agenda. I agree with Mr. Arth. I would have liked to have seen a lot stronger language. I feel that the citizens of Dunsmuir and also the city council does not realize how that road is going to impact us. Its noise is going to be unbelievable from logging trucks. And it's right over the top in the main view shed of Dunsmuir. You know, people don't want to really know this or think about it. They don't want to think about logging, and neither do I, but it's going to have a big impact. Also, we're going to build 6 miles of road up there, new construction on Blackberry Hill. And with this road that hangs down, this NC4, which is about what the resolution is about, that road is just like an inducement to tourists and other people to get up into that area. And I feel that that's the real fire danger for Dunsmuir, is that inducement of that road, the noise and seeing traffic up there is going to pull people and lure people to that area. And gates will not keep them out. And nobody's going to patrol that area. Nobody's going to be chasing dirt bikers around or anything like that. So there's several other issues, and I just feel that that it hasn't been adequately addressed. I feel that road is going to have a major impact. It's over an area with some of the slopes are 80% slopes. That's an 80% slope. That's a 90% slope. So they're very steep on southern part of Butterfly. There's a double switchback with 3 landings right up there on the ridge, right where I'm pointing. Not over here, not over there, right up there. And a double switchback, 3 landings. Landing is where they do logging activity. It's right on that ridge, all right above Dunsmuir, not just this road hanging down. So it's a major thing that's going on up there. It's going to affect us with all future timber harvesting plans south of us. They want to run the logging, use this road as a transportation to Mott. And we're not trying to stop a logging road. We're just trying to get them to relocate the logging road someplace to the east. That's all we're trying to do. And we're not even telling them, because we can't tell them, it's private property. We're just asking, and I'm hoping the city council will say, you know, yeah, we support that. This is a tourist town, and we don't want to hear logging noise for the rest of our lives. And we don't want the visual of trucks going off, logging trucks forever up there. This is a forever road. It's a forever road. It will always be there. And I haven't even talked about erosion from logging truck roads up there. I mean, you got a slope this steep and you cut into it, the bank, the cut is going to be very deep into the hillside. And that's a wet area up there. Blackberry Hill is very wet. And they're gonna cut so deeply into that hillside because the slope is so steep. And that means
You're
water.
at 20 seconds.
And that means water can come out and run down the hill. In other words, more erosion along with the normal rainfall. And this has been outlined exactly in what I have sent Todd. So I wish that the resolution were a stronger resolution. I feel it's going to affect Dunsmuir very much. There's going to be a lot, people are going to have a lot to say about what's going on up there when it actually happens. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. We really appreciate comments tonight. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment on item E and move this item into discussion.
I mean, I'm happy to move. I'm happy to move the resolution with the understanding if Todd could work with Michael a little more, maybe to make it a little better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll vote for it either way, but I do think.
Put more teeth in it?
Well, I do think it directly affects
Do you have,
the city.
how about this? I'm very supportive of this resolution. I think it's a really good idea. It's a good concern. But if you have some sentences you'd like to amend here and now, perhaps, unless it's getting too much into the weeds, we could just amend it and move forward.
The two specifics are to focus on the amount of public interest in the item. Not every single person that signed the petition lived in Dunsmuir, but most of them did. So to at least reflect for our community, somehow in this magazine we got 3,000 connections, but for our community of 2,000, there is significant public concern from visual to erosion. If we get a big rainfall on an 80% slope coming right down to Butterfly Avenue, we just buried all of our sewer pipes, well, that's a concern.
Yeah.
So to both work with the Blackberry Hill community, maybe a public meeting with, like you said, the appropriate agency or the timber harvesters.
Yeah, I do think that CAL FIRE, I believe, is the appropriate agency.
Correct.
Activists should work with them to develop a community meeting within that. I'm happy to, why don't we amend it to reflect the number of signatures signed? Would that add more strength? I think that's a great idea to reflect the public outreach.
I would agree.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
That man got up here tonight, he's speaking for everybody down there on that, in that area. They have history and they have experience. What they're trying not to do is experience history again. One bad rain, it could be devastating. So thank you for bringing this and pushing this as hard. And I'm seconding whatever they come up with.
Peter, you had a second one? What was the second one?
No, a specific outreach to the most impacted community. And that's the people that have no voice up in Blackberry Hill. We've never seen any of them, and when Michael and I were talking in the hall, it's intimidating to come to a city council meeting. It's intimidating to try to stand up to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I would like whoever's going to tear up the hillside to at least listen to the community, see if they could mitigate some of the worst excesses before they do it.
How about this? Why don't we do a motion to approve the resolution with the addition of signature support numbered, and ask these entities to host a public meeting in the town of Dunsmuir.
And maybe this is in the province of our public disaster recovery committee. We sort of, Juliana and I, the first thing we did when we got elected was put together this committee. And it served a purpose on the one hand, but on the other hand, we don't have anything on our agenda about fire safety. We've handed the whole thing off. And I think with climate change, that could come back to bite us.
Well, I do believe they're meeting regularly and making good progress. So you guys founded a very, very good institution.
I believe they meet next Thursday is their regular meeting.
Okay, so Peter if you're fine making that motion with the amendment. Okay.
And I believe Councilmember Keisler wanted to
I'll
second.
second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bush, for all your work on
Thank you,
this and bringing it to
Michael.
our attention. All right, for item 16, future agenda items, I have, of course, a tentative approval of Public Works Director position after Finance Committee has it, and the theater fund loan resolution.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Something was brought to my attention between some concerned citizens. Mr. Bush, thank you, sir. Have a good night. Something was brought to me between concerned citizens and after speaking with Diana. The question is this, Mr. City Manager, is there an ordinance that makes me responsible for my trash? In other words, if I'm sitting in my house at 7:30 and I'm watching the trash people pull up and get out and pick up all the trash from my bear, is there an ordinance that says that I'm responsible until the trash gets in the trash can, the trash truck?
Yeah, I believe it's chapter 8.10 of the municipal code.
That's what we needed to enforce, because a lot of people in Dunsmuir just sit around and they wait for Diana to get out of the truck and pick up the trash. And she's saying that this is, it's all part of the big picture, but if everybody were to be educated and to know that you're responsible, if you get out, you're going out in your car, you're going to work, and you see your trash all over the street, guess what? You're gonna be a couple minutes late because you gotta pick up your own trash. It's called being responsible.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have discussed some similar need to amend some of our ordinances to address and clarify some of those items. So that can be something we discuss at the Solid Waste Committee and bring back a
I
recommendation.
think that in doing that, we'll be helping the trash people, which will be in turn helping us save a dollar.
Thank you, Big Dave.
Thank you.
I have one thing. I'm working with the city manager, but I'd like a little bit of input from council. We've promised the business community a meeting to discuss future economic development in Dunsmuir. With this grant coming up, it's even more important, et cetera. We're tentatively looking at maybe early September, if that's a good time for council.
I'm a little concerned just with the workload right now with a lot of the grants that we have dealing with, to maybe if we can push it back to the second meeting in September.
No, I'm not even thinking about this as a council item, but a business, like a meet and greet.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just a little concerned at this point because, again, city staff are going to be the ones putting together a majority of the work unless,
Yeah.
we are able to volunteer our time to do that, which I do not in the next couple weeks. I want to be really cognizant, again, going back to our evaluation we had earlier tonight, to be really cognizant of what Todd's doing, of what other city staff members are doing to make sure that we're getting some of these other big ticket items, like the 218 process is going to be now going. Maybe if we can push that off to the end of September or maybe early October.
Let's have an Oktoberfest.
Or later October, maybe.
Let's have an
Yeah,
Oktoberfest
I agree with it. I think it's something we should do. I just really want to be cognizant. I mean, we just had how many items on the agenda?
Yeah, we
And
cut
True.
staff a little break.
And this is the
Yeah.
third meeting in a row.
And a 218.
Todd?
actually technically 5 if you consider also finance committee meetings.
Yeah, that's true. Todd,
Yes.
do you know when we would expect to hear more good news, or just roughly, on the $250,000 planning grant?
It's all dependent on HCD, which are the same folks that brought you the approval for CV1, CV2, and CV3 a year and a half after the pandemic hit, which was supposed to help small businesses during it.
Okay.
So it could be a little bit.
Could be a little bit. Okay. Well, the main thing is we do have funding available, as of last regular meeting with the CDBG program. So let's just work with staff on a good time. Maybe putting it out might actually help with attendance as well.
Yeah.
So, Councilman Ard.
Well, as I understood it, this was going to be more a listening session where we listen to the business community rather than us putting out all the wonderful things we've done. And I've encouraged several of my small business tenants to try to apply for these loans, and there's great misunderstanding. Almost none of them are eligible because there's this and that. So I tell them, oh, here you go, micro enterprise loan. And the answer from Wairika is, no, you're not eligible because of this and this and this. So I do think it would be helpful to have someone from the economic development group come down. I don't think the council members or the city manager needs to say much at all. What we need to do is sit and listen. And specifically, when we passed the budget, my recollection is we passed it with the understanding we were going to get a presentation from two of the community grantees, the Chamber of Commerce. What are you going to do with your money? What can the business community count on? How do we organize with or without the chamber? That conversation needs to happen sooner rather than later.
So just for the sake of time tonight, and again, maybe Councilmember Arth and Mayor Brian can work with the city manager to really actually hash out what's going to happen
Okay,
and what
yeah,
the
that sounds good.
expectations are. And then just let us know what's going on, because it sounds like it's not going to be a council meeting. It's just going to be
No.
a listening session. So maybe just keep us in the loop.
All right,
Yeah.
is there any further future
Well, the
agenda?
other is besides the chamber, we're all supposed to hear from the Park and Rec District as far as the money we gave them. I'm really unhappy as a baseball guy that the bleachers are unusable in our baseball field. That we're canceling events because the bleachers are broken.
Well, they're under bid right now. They're taking bids on the.
Well, let's not discuss it now.
Anyway.
Let's not discuss it, but let's see if we can get on the same page. Did we give them too much money, too little money? We want the pool to work. We want the bleachers and the field to be usable. Yes, it's their jurisdiction, but yes, we're giving them money with the expectation it benefits the community.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got both those on the list to fit into the agenda coming up forward, pending Parks and Rec and Chamber availability, and we can discuss format in the future for that. I think it'd be healthy to hear, especially with the new Chamber Director, hear from them. It'd be nice to get that dialogue going. So I think we have probably a great deal that's already slated to come to council at this next meeting. I think that'd be enough, definitely enough for next meeting and maybe the one beyond. So why
That's the
don't
case,
we?
are you entertaining a motion to adjourn?
I am entertaining such a motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Wendy.